First thing I want to tell you is when we think about like sending you something physical, what I anchor on initially is what are the things we save? So this idea of like, what are the things that we naturally save in our lives? That if you naturally save something, then how do we leverage that as an insight? So let's start with something really simple. One of the categories I talk about is reference and remember. A book, if it's in that category. When you finish reading a book, what do you think most people do with a book?
Put it on the shelf.
Goes on the shelf.
Put it on the shelf. So we know that people put a book on the bookshelf, and sometimes it could sit on that bookshelf. I have books that have been sitting on my bookshelf for not days or months, but years or decades. And when I move, I pack them up, even though I don't go through them. So this thing is taking up space. I want to take up real estate in your house. Like I want to have a physical presence. So this idea of reference and remember, if you can see a lot of our boxes, guess how big they are? Most of them are the size of a book because I want you to put them on your bookshelf. I want to brand the spine so you can see it on your bookshelf. I can build a whole anthology over this concept. So this idea of the size of the box, I know the bigger the box, the less likely people are going to save it. The smaller the box, we can start to emulate some of these behaviors. So that's a category. Another category is things with play and replay, replayability. Things with replayability are things we save. You don't play golf and then throw out your clubs. You don't play basketball and throw out a basketball. If we talk about board games, you don't play Monopoly and then throw out the Monopoly game after you play it. So this idea of this, my dad still has his CDs, his 8-tracks, his vinyl records, even though he has no means to play his vinyl records or 8-tracks. And it's kind of cool that vinyl records are coming back. But this idea of replayability, VHSs, all these things, CDs. I have my CD collection in my childhood home from high school. So like, it's just showing you this idea of replayability. So what do we start to think about in terms of the experience in the box? Do we have almost like a board game has a game board, something that they can go through that takes them from the beginning to the desired outcome, something that they can repeat again and again? Are we educating them? Hey, go through this experience once, but then in a couple of months, I want you to revisit it and go through it again. Think about books or movies you've watched. Have you ever watched a movie or listen to a song and then years later watch it again and listen to the song, but it's a whole different interpretation and experience?
Yeah,
that's because
100%.
Your environment shapes that element. So when we think of that replayability, that's a category. Recognize and wear, awards, things that like if you look at your real estate agent and recognize them for, you sold 5 homes, you sold 10 homes, you sold 100 homes. What's really powerful about recognition is when you recognize someone, do you think they take that award and throw it out? Do you think Russell Brunson, if y'all know ClickFunnels, they have the 2 Comma Club award. Do you think people get the 2 Comma Club award and then just trash it? So things that recognize people. So a perfect example is if you graduated high school or college, you probably got a graduate degree or some type of physical diploma. It's a piece of paper. Like it probably cost the university like $1 to $3 for this piece of paper. Yet we hold this piece of paper for the rest of our lives. So recognition is really powerful, starting to engineer that into your process. And the last one, which is my favorite, is this idea of collection. If you're collecting something, we call it collect and complete. When I was a kid in the United States, they came out with a new quarter for every state. So our 25-cent quarter, every state had its own quarter. My father and I had this map that as we collected the quarters, we would push it into this little coin board. And, the idea of collecting, if you collect Legos, Beanie Babies, I don't know if Beanie Babies were a big thing.
Oh yeah, I'm a huge collector, so I'm right with you. Like I love all sorts of different collection items.
Comic books, stamps, baseball cards or Pokemon cards or whatever cards you want to play. Like all these things, the inherent nature of collecting something, you're not going to throw it out because you're collecting it. So how do I engineer that from a box perspective? One of my biggest inspirations is if you've ever heard of a Spartan race. Have you ever heard of a Spartan race mud run? How do you do them?
Yeah, I used to.
Oh man, I used to. Now I'm getting back to it. I'm doing it in Austin in May because it's been like 5 years since I did one. But when I did a Spartan race, like what I wanted was the medal at the end of the race. Like what I wanted was this, because this signified that if I held this medal, that I completed the race. So this recognizes that I completed it. What Spartan did that caught me off guard was they said, congrats on completing the race. Now it's time to go for what they called your trifecta. And they gave you a third of a medal.
Oh,
this
cool.
Is a friggin' brilliant strategy when we're talking about extending lifetime value. Because I didn't start my Spartan journey. I did it because I was like, it's a 5K, it's a sprint, I can go get it. But when I got my red piece, which is the sprint, the 3 to 5 miler, and then I was like, I want to do another one. Then I got my second piece. Do you think I just said, I'm okay with having 2 of 3? Had you told me in 2015 when I did my first Spartan that I'd be doing a half marathon mud run, I would have said you lost your mind. But they created the constraints to say, I have to finish this. I have to close this loop. And so that's been a big inspiration for me in a lot of things with our business is how do we engineer this ourselves? Well, a perfect example is we may say, hey, here's box 1 of 4. If you want to collect box 2 of 4 and 3 of 4 and 4 of 4, you have to keep playing the game. And so part of it is engineering it. So that is from just like a high level theory of like, how are we thinking about the things that we naturally save in our lives? And how do we engineer that in terms of what we create? Now, what goes into an experience? I want to see some type of journey that you can show me. You're going to start here. And let's just say if it's a real estate agent, it could be your training process to get them to a certain level of proficiency. They can like earn their rookie rank and then eventually get a certain level and start to become more and more proficient. It could be based on the homes that they sell. It could be based on taking on and training agents under them. However you gamify that structure, how do I give them the tools to build the competence and the confidence that as they go through this process, you at least have defined what success looks like. Trifecta, the success looks like this. I have all 3 medals for the Spartan race. They define success. For a lot of businesses, they kind of just throw you in there, but they have not defined what success is. At the end of college, the diploma is defining success. If I have the diploma, I completed college. If you do a marathon, having the medal from the marathon is success. If you are in Taekwondo, having the belts, all those belts are what
a million belts.
Yeah.
you know that the destination of what you want is the black belt because they defined black belt. Black belt had no meaning until they gave it meaning. Then you gave me something to strive for. The question I would have for any real estate agent is whatever process you engineered, have you defined what success looks like and given them the mark that actually represents what success looks like? So that's like the piece that, when we're talking about getting people through, the idea of like a 2 Comma Club award over here is so many people in the ClickFunnels community want the 2 Comma Club award. The reality is when you have a 2 Comma Club award, that means you have a business that's generated $1 million, a 7-figure producing business. That should be celebrated. But like truly what people want is the award. The award represents something so much bigger. Same thing with a black belt in Taekwondo. Same thing if you want to be a Cub Scout to an Eagle Scout in Boy Scouts. I don't know what the equivalent is, Girl Scouts. But like all of these are things that they've defined what success looks like. It's not up for debate. This is success. So that is what we're ultimately looking for is like for our customer, for our team, have we defined success in a way that it is concrete? It's undeniable that when you hold that graduate degree or that diploma, when you have that driver's license, like you are certified to drive. Like it's undeniable. So those are the moments that we look for when we're talking about experiences, that the journey that you define needs to define what success is. A physical element to represent it is just a really powerful thing.